Welcome to OurSeniors Radio, a nonprofit dedicated to honoring our seniors by providing relevant information on senior needs. From health, wellness, and lifestyle to residential, medical, and legal, just to name a few. Our seniors and their families are able to make educated decisions and live their best life. Find them online at OurSeniors.org as well. And yes, you can become one of our seniors. Welcome aboard.
Hey, folks, welcome. Welcome to OurSeniors Radio. Thank you for joining us. And we are excited this morning. Yes, we are. Hope everybody's doing well. Everybody's recovered from Thanksgiving. We want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Have a beautiful holiday season out there. And as we get ready, we have a lot of great things happening behind the scenes here. And we want to bring all this information to our seniors, yes, through the magazine, radio show, you name it. And we are excited this morning. We have a special guest. And by the way, I am your host, Julian Cantillo, okay, president and founder of OurSeniors, the entire family. And we have a special guest this morning, okay? With us this morning is Dr. Stephen Quaning, okay? And you may have seen already the section in the magazine, if you haven't picked up a copy for the fall edition, Ask Dr. Q. The famous Dr. Q is here with us. Sir, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here today.
All righty. And we are excited because you'll get to know a little bit more about Dr. Q, and feel free to submit questions and you have the options, okay? Ask Dr. Q at OurSeniors.net. You can send an email, or if you want to call in and leave a message, no HIPAA information, no privacy information will be released. It'll all be protected. But if you have specific questions, feel free to send them and we'll try to respond, okay? Our phone number is 386-516-3969, okay? So we'll get started. Dr. Quaning will give us a little background of his history. How long has he been practicing? Where did he go to school? So, sir, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was actually born in the islands. I was born in Trinidad. And from there, my dad and my family, we moved across to different places like Puerto Rico, and then we ended up in Canada, became Canadian citizens, then went back to the Virgin Islands, and really spent a lot of time in my growing years in the islands. And from there, the culture, philosophy is slightly different in terms of when it comes to family and values. And the notion is that the family takes care of each other, you know. And that's what caused me to pursue this career in geriatric medicine. I knew I wanted to do medicine. I thought medicine was very fascinating. Did lots of different jobs, got bored very easy. In medicine, you don't get bored. Even if you're taking care of diabetes and it's bread and butter for primary care physicians, each case is so different. So when my grandfather came and lived with us, of course, he went on to have your typical hypertension, diabetes, had a couple of episodes where he was on his own. He would take his insulin. He wouldn't eat. And luckily, somebody came in, found him in a diabetic coma. He recovered. But, he didn't take the kind of care that he needed. And at a certain point, it came out that we needed to do our job, which is to take care of him. And what was very interesting is that throughout his course, those couple of episodes where his sugars dropped did a lot more damage than when the sugars were high. So it affected him from a cognitive perspective. We also, at that point, you're talking where I'm still a young whippersnapper and, trying to take care of another human being and trying to figure out why some of this behavior that we're observing. Come to find out later that he had what's called normal pressure hydrocephalus, which could cause you to have sort of like a dementia, and he wasn't behaving in such a way that he could take care of himself. When they were finally able to diagnosis and they were able to put a shunt in, because normal pressure hydrocephalus just means that there's the fluid around the brain just cannot drain the way it can, and the fluid builds up. And in your skull, you really don't have that much room. So it was pushing on the brain and causing some of the behaviors that we were seeing. And when he had the operation, it relieved the pressure, and he kind of came back to where he was in a normal way, What was very interesting about it, though, it was that he looked at me one day and said, I can't tell the difference between reality and what's a dream. Because all of a sudden he was seeing things from his past, and he thought he was back in Trinidad, he was back in his business, and we would reassure him that he wasn't there, but he couldn't tell the difference from that, I remember having to administer his insulin, and at that particular point, it was the first time I had to give him his injection, and I didn't know how strong the skin was. And it was very interesting because I put the needle in, he yelled, I dropped the needle, he got mad at me, and then I said, okay, I'm doing it right this time, because he got me a little annoyed.
Awesome.
And that was my first administration of insulin. But what finally did it was realization that taking care of seniors, you have to be patient. It's a very rewarding feel. And we always say that every one of us, all our physicians have parents or grandparents. So we're not just your primary care physician, we're also caregivers. And that's the key to understanding how to really administer this in this field, is to understand it from two perspectives, not just the person you're taking care of, but what are the caregivers having to do for that person? And most times the caregivers could be a spouse. And I've had multiple spouses that don't take care of themselves. And you'd have to have that conversation. Well, if you don't take care of yourself, who's going to take care of your other spouse? If you're the caregiver, it's very important that you take care of yourself. So that's where geriatric medicine is slightly different, I would say, from other specialties, where if you're a cardiologist, you're focused on the heart of the patient. If the spouse comes in, if they have cardiac disease, you may focus on that. But from our perspective, we have to look at not only the patient, but if the patient has disabilities and unable to take care of themselves and they have a caregiver, we do have to address the caregiver, even if they're not our patient, because we know that they're dependent on somebody else. And what happens if that caregiver gets ill? That caregiver ends up in the hospital, maybe after the hospitalization goes to a nursing home for some rehab. Who takes care of that person at home?
That is so true. And being a nurse and being still a caretaker, I know exactly where you're coming from. You had some very interesting points there. So this would be a great time to take a little break, and we'll be right back and continue this interesting session. We'll be right back.
Attention seniors and their family members. OurSeniors.net is dedicated to meeting the needs of seniors in all ways. You may already know about the OurSeniors.net website and its high-quality printed magazine. Now, Our Seniors is on the radio. Tune in on Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock on WNDB 93.5 FM or 1150 AM. Each week, you'll hear a new program aimed specially at seniors. Don't miss it. Our Seniors Radio Show, Saturday mornings on WNDB.
Hey there, welcome back to Our Seniors Radio. Thank you again for joining us. And we have Dr. Q is here with us. So how long have you gone to school through the whole process to become board certified, etc.?
A long journey. So we're I was a late bloomer. Let's put it this way. Instead of getting into medical school where most folks get in when they're in about 22 years old, 23, I didn't get in until I was 26. Finished medical school at 30, did my residency for 3 years, and did a fellowship in geriatric medicine. So I came out a little bit later than most folks to do this. And, you know, if I look at my life, I just kind of say, okay, there's a reason why it took so long. Because believe it or not, being able to take care of another human being is not just about how smart you are. You have to be ready inside as well to take that responsibility. You have to be mature enough to be able to take care. Because there were times during residency that you have to make a decision when you're taking care of them, especially if you're, as they calling a code. And as a senior resident, you have to make that decision how far you carry that code, you know.
Excellent, excellent. But you brought up an interesting point. The fact that you were a little bit mature than your colleagues as you were going through school. Did you graduate number one from the class?
I don't know.
Just curious.
I really, it's quite interesting. When it comes to that level, when you get into medical school, there really shouldn't be any ranking, you know, because what difference does it make, you know? Because what I've found with patients, they don't ever ask you, where did you rank? What they want to know is, are you going to listen to me? Are you really going to hear my complaints? What is your bedside manner like? And because I started to gray early, I didn't have that young look, so they kind of looked at me and said, yeah, you must know what you're doing because look at that gray hair in your head, you know.
You have a little bit more hair than I do and a little bit more gray as well.
Yeah.
So congratulations. But, and as far as, and feel free to mention some of the schools, but on the geriatric side, with the board certification, where exactly did you take your training there?
Well, I went to St. George's School of Medicine for my medical school, and then I did my residency at Long Island Jewish Medical Center. And during residency, they had a geriatric program, the Parker Institute, which was really next door to the hospital. And I did a couple of rotations during my residency because I was trying to figure out the two fellowships I was looking at. One was gastroenterology, and the other one was geriatric medicine. And I did rotations in both, but I found it more rewarding on the geriatric side. So I did my fellowship there. My chief of geriatrics wanted me to do 2 years, you know, but the 2 years is really more on the research side. I wanted to go out and work in the community. I knew I didn't want to do any research, you know, or be in academia. I wanted to get out there and take care of the seniors.
Beautiful, beautiful. And how did this entire concept come about and the founding of MetroHealth, et cetera? Give us a little history behind that.
Well, I remember when I did the fellowship, a lot of folks would say, why are you doing a fellowship in geriatric medicine? Internal medicine is basically that. The majority of folks that entered into the hospital or admitted were seniors. And I said, well, for one, you know, our year fellowship didn't focus so much on the chronic conditions. It was, so the model is a biopsychosocial model of illness. It focused on the psychosocial aspect of it. And it also taught you how to work as a team, right? So there are a host of other folks that help these seniors, not just, so you have the social workers, you have the nursing staff, you other resources, and you had to look at it from that perspective. You had to look at what is the psychosocial doing for that particular person when it comes to their illness. Despite what people said, I said, this is what I really want to do. Then I came down to Florida, because when you're up in New York, you think that's where every senior lives, in Florida. I said, this will be a great place because that's where all the old folks are. Let's go down there. Let's do it. But didn't know that Central Florida really didn't have such a large compared to South Florida. But anyway, loved Orlando, stayed here. got introduced to a model of care, the value-based model of care. And, the reality is everything is a business. And medicine is a business. And the question is, how do you survive as a business and be able to do what you love to do? And the value-based offered that. And I could say that one of the things that excites me is that we started working for a company that taught us about value-based. And then I went out on my own and purchased MetroHealth from a physician who didn't want to do primary care anymore. He wanted to go back to the emergency room. And that's where it all started. And we focused. And then initially we took all the insurances, we took all ages, that sort of stuff. But as we started to grow and we focused only on the seniors, we were able at some point to say, you know what, that's our specialty. A senior care, we're going to stop all the other plans and freeze it for now and just focus on the seniors, because there's a lot of hand-holding that's required to take care of the seniors. And again, the majority of our time is spent in the psychosocial part of it, because chronic illnesses, for the most part, could be stable on medication. But what is that illness or the medications, if they're side effects, doing to that person? Their outlook in life. Every decade, our view of our life changes. One of the hardest things, I think, for physicians to do sometimes is talk about death. But we know that the folks that come to us at some point will pass. So what I like to say is that we like to give them a path that would keep them independent and as healthy as they can until that moment comes, because we can't predict it. There are some times, yes, you could say, we know you have this illness, we see it decompensating, we see your body shutting down, we know you're heading there. But for the most part, a lot of healthy folks, you just go, hey, we don't know. So enjoy life, and let's see what we can do to help you with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you bring up a very important topic. It's not a matter of if, it's when, because we all are going there. And for more information on MetroHealth, especially if you're looking for a new primary care, depending on the timing of your changes in plans, eligibility, etc., in Volusia County, you can call 386-467-4430. And MetroHealth has quite a few locations, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But we'll be right back.
OurSeniors.net provides reliable and accurate information to serve the seniors of Florida. No matter what kind of assistance you need, from home repair to finances to buying or selling a home or considering assisted living, our team is here to help you. Our carefully chosen vendors meet our exceptionally high standards and adhere to the OurSeniors.net Code of Ethics. Want a magazine in your hands? Visit OurSeniors.net or call 386-516-3969.
Hey, welcome back, folks. Thank you for joining OurSeniors Radio. And again, we're here today with Dr. Q, and it's extremely informative, all the information he's putting out. Dr. Quaning represents MetroHealth, and MetroHealth has quite a few locations, and perhaps Dr. Quaning can tell us exactly where all the locations are. Tell us a little bit more, sir.
Yes, right now we have a total of 7 offices, and we have 5 down in the Orange, Orlando area, and 2 up here in Volusia. So we have one that we call on the east side of town, one's on the west side of town, one's kind of central located downtown, and then we have Apopka, and the other one is in Conway. And up here we have one in Holly Hill and Ormond Beach.
And we highly recommend, folks, that if you haven't had a chance, you can call in Orange County 407-326-2071, or in Volusia County 386-467-4430. Highly recommend that you take a tour and see their offices, meet some of their team members before you make decisions. Okay, highly recommend. I've had the experience firsthand, and the team really goes over everything with you. They bend over backwards to accommodate you. Just great opportunities to see the environment before you make those decisions. Okay, I know there's a lot of changes going on, a lot of primary cares retiring, etc. This team that Dr. Quaning has put together is phenomenal. Highly recommend that you schedule a visit and just take a tour. You're not under any obligation, okay? And besides all these locations, etc., what other projects, what other milestones do you have going on with MetroHealth?
Okay. Before I get to that milestone, I do want to just reinforce what you're saying. I do want people to come and interview us. I think it's very important that they come and interview us and see if we are the right fit for them. Some, they might say yes, some may say no, but I want it to be a relationship where it's a win-win for both. So please do come out. There's no obligation, like you said. You take a tour, but interview us, grill us, talk to us, see our philosophy, okay? Now, we do have something special coming up, and it really came about because while I was on a lot of these marketing tours and talking to places like seniors at assisted living facilities, outdoor marketing, there was a theme that came up quite a bit, which was, wow, we'd like to be able to get to your office, but either the caregivers, which majority of times tend to be the kids, it's hard to get my mother or father there because I got to take time out, or, transportation is an issue. So we have what we call our 8th office, which is on wheels, okay? And we decided to do this so that we could go into communities where there's seniors, and it's really a clinic on wheels, and the notion is we come to you to deliver the care. What we will be able to do are things like x-rays, some portable x-rays, some simple blood work, but it's to be able to help alleviate that notion that one of the barriers to healthcare may be, how do I get to you? Now, there are doctors that do house calls. And I've done those house calls too. We have what we call a house call team that we go out. But one of the things I found is that the environment is not conducive to a proper physical exam. So we invested in an RV to be able to have a clinic environment. And it will have a lift for those who are in the wheelchair. And that's excellent. The major project for us. And I think it, if we go into, like I said, where there are clusters of seniors, I think we'll be able to do some good.
Excellent. And I'm sure you'll have more information coming up, and please keep an eye out for the winter edition, because there may be even additional information. And when I say winter, starting January, February, and March, okay, with more information about this mobile type clinics, okay? And I'm sure you'll go more into details once the program is released, depending on what kind of insurance they have, how does it take care of it if they want to make appointments, etc. And I love what Dr. Q said earlier, because you don't find that in today's world with primary care physicians and offices, where he, being the president and CEO, is putting out information to come out and interview them and grill them, okay? You don't find that in today's world with most primary care locations. You're lucky if you even get an appointment, sooner than later, okay? And for you to come by and schedule an appointment, take a tour, ask questions, interview them, etc. That is extremely important and very valuable to the seniors. Okay? You don't have to go alone. Take your significant other, take your caretaker, take whoever you want with you, so you can see it, touch it, feel it, ask the questions, so you can make the right decisions. But it sounds like that entire mobile medical on wheels will be very, very helpful to seniors, especially those in facilities that have issues with transportation. They have to get everything coordinated, etc. You're coming to them. They don't have to go somewhere.
Correct.
That is excellent. And I just want to bring up a quick topic here. With respect to technology, I'm sure that's going to be used on the mobile aspect as well, but how is technology playing a role right now serving seniors?
Okay, great question. So I point out that we always look at to see what technology could help our seniors. So one of the things that happened during the pandemic was there was a lot of telemedicine. Okay. Now, prior to that, there was a device that came out called the MedPod, and they were pushing for this telemedicine. And the reason why we invested in the MedPod was a very simple reason. Majority of times, telemedicine is either a Zoom call or something over the phone. But that's about it. If somebody says that they have an issue, you really cannot do a physical exam on them. It's a very simple call. With the MedPod, we call it telediagnostic, because with this device, you could actually do a virtual exam. We have our technician out there. You could get the vitals, you could auscultate the patient, you could hear the breath sounds, you could hear the abdominal sounds, you could hear the cardiac sounds. If they said their ears are hurting them, or throat, there's a device that you could go ahead and the physician on the other side or the provider could actually see what's going on and a more in-depth examination. So that's where we use that technology. When it came out, I remember telling the rep who told me about it, I said, I want to be the first one in Orlando to get it, So our notion was to use that for patients who are coming out of the hospital. We try to see them at least within 48 hours after discharge to prevent readmission. Or if they're ill and they can't come in, try to get the house call team to do it, and then use that telediagnostic for the providers for that office to be able to make a clinical decision. But what had happened was that device was very big, very cumbersome to carry into the house. So I told them, I said, can't you make it smaller? Next thing you know, they make a backpack. And I said, okay, you're making the backpack. I want to be the first one to get that.
Excellent.
So that we could be more mobile with it. And that's how we use the technology to help us. So this whole mobile team, it's a mobile house call team with the use of this MedPod in place for whenever the mobile unit cannot get there. So the house call team will have something to give more information, or at least a provider on the other end will be able to see their patients, talk to them, but then be able to do a little bit more.
So the backpack is available now and it's being used.
Correct.
Excellent. Well, and folks, we have so much information. We're definitely going to have Dr. Q back because he has so much information to share with us that we can definitely welcome him back soon. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Q.
No, thank you for having me here. It was really great.
And we look forward. There's plenty more questions, and I'm sure we'll have a very nice show number 2 here. And again, if you're looking to schedule for primary care in Volusia County, call 386-467-4430. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having Dr. Q back soon.
Thanks for listening to Our Seniors Radio. Don't forget to check out OurSeniors.net magazine and tune in every Saturday at 8 a.m. on WNDB. Help support the nonprofit, which is OurSeniors.org, or call 800-647-0868.